We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Will Durant. Each and every day, 10 to 15 minutes, learning how these markets move. Price movement and predicting it accurately is all we really care about. So we're going to get into these charts, review what's going on. Everything is up for the day, but not necessarily for the week. Now, when we look at stocks, we can see that they are. Let's first focus in on the S&P 500. We see we ended this week with a green spinning top. Let's pull that up and size it. You can see where we had this huge volume spike when we hit the low. Always a good sign that you're having a change in direction when things immediately turn around after high volume. We saw that happen the week beginning the 20th of March. And since then, well, for 4 weeks up very nicely, 3 weeks sliding sideways, and these last 2 weeks moving up. Now we can see last week where we had a higher high, or well, let's see, the high during that week beginning the 15th of May was 420.72. This week, 420.77. So that's good. We were a few cents higher. But of course, you can see more down movement here. So we are paying close attention. But of course, when it comes to our trend line, things are moving up. Now, what does that portend for this next week? Well, on the 2-day chart, this is just the first day of the latest 2-day chart. We've not pushed above the weekly trend line again. We moved below it, started moving below it back on Tuesday, the 2nd of May. And we can see where we've stayed below it. We popped up right on it back on the 18th. That would have been the 18th and 19th, Thursday and Friday of last week. And we can see this week we had 2 big down days. Well, we had a down candle representing 2 days. That was May the 24th and the 25th. And then the 26th on Friday, we can see where things have popped up again and the wick has gone above. So that's a good sign. We can see in the morning, up, wick above, and in the afternoon, the candle itself went above. So that's a good sign that we're moving in that right direction. But we will pay attention to where the 2-day stays here. And again, just what happens over the course of this next week. We can see that volume is average. So again, no big spike in volume precipitating a potential turnaround. So those are signs when you see them that can be very helpful. They don't happen all the time. We can look back here and see none of that when this latest change occurred. So it's important to pay attention to, and we will look for those kinds of telltale signs, but we don't have to have them. We start getting a red down candle. You can see how accurate the S&P has been. We go back all the way to a year to where we had a fake out. So that's a good chart, is it not? Yes. You don't want a sloppy chart where you can't accurately predict most of the time what's going on. Now, if you follow our always winning method, we're looking for a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and that is working in your chart. It's moving enough that it can do that for you. You only have to win 4 out of 10 times to move ahead. Now, we don't want to have 6 losses out of 10. We can, most of the time, with a real chart, a chart that is trackable and chartable, we can do better than that. But again, you don't have to be perfect. Don't worry about being perfect. Worry about cutting your losses when things don't work. That's where we are on the S&P. By the way, remember, markets are closed on Monday here in the States for the Memorial Day weekend. Now, we look at what's going on with the Qs. That's the NASDAQ 100. Booming up 2.56% for the day. Nice, strong week. See, compare this to the S&P 500, which is below. Look at what the Qs is doing, well above the weekly trend line on the 2-day chart. And, of course, on the half-day chart, two good, strong days ending the week. And, again, things moving in the right direction. I'm sorry about this cough. I'm having a little bit of a problem this afternoon, but please deal with it with me. We do see volume has stayed about average. So again, that's all right. We can see where things spiked up when this original move started, and that's good to see. It just confirms when you get that nice green candle the next week that you have a strong movement starting. Now, that's where we are on the Qs. They're moving in the right direction, as is the S&P 500, hoping for more continued up movement this next week. If it doesn't happen, particularly on the S&P, if it starts to die on the vine and goes red, then of course we're shorting. One way you can practice trade that on the S&P is with a fund called SH. It's the single short of the S&P 500, and it goes up when the S&P goes down. So again, that's a possibility. PSQ is a single short when the Qs goes negative again, PSQ. And again, it's another ProShares single short. You can see how it's been going down lately. It goes down when the NASDAQ 100 goes up, and it goes up when it goes down. Now, let's move on to 20-year bonds. And in fact, a short fund that we are in now on our practice trade is Tango Bravo Foxtrot. That's the single short of 20-year U.S. government bonds, and it is moving up quite nicely. Now, we can see, and let me just go back to the underlying fund because that's what we keep up with. We don't switch around between short funds and long funds. We stick with the one that we track, the underlying asset, as we would call it, or equity. What we see here, though, is, of course, the 20-year bonds TLT has been hitting a ceiling many times over the last few weeks. Since it hit it last, it did slide sideways, and over the last 3 weeks in particular, it has been going down. It swung up a little. It swung up some at the end of the day, 0.81%. Things, though, are still nicely set up, far away from the weekly trend line on the 2-day and the half-day. And again, moving in the right direction. We'll see if that continues over the course of this next week. And gold, been at a pullback. It pulled up a little bit for the day, 0.40%, 0.4%. Again, strongly below the 2-day and the half-day with this weekly trend line that transmits across. Well, this is bizarre. I'm not sure why that is doing that. Let's see what's going on. Let's get rid of that. Let's redraw it. I'll show you how I draw this. I go to the ray, I put it in on the candle itself, and then let's see, we draw it. We're going to switch that around, and we go ahead and set it, and it's a little bit better here. I tell you, the easiest way to draw these is always to pull it up, maximize the chart. Then you can easily establish, remember, bottom up, top down. Now let's go back and see. There we go. Now you can see that the movement is strongly below the weekly trend line on the 2-day and the half-day. I don't know why that got messed up, but we got it set straight. That's where we are on gold. Gold still in a down move after topping back on the week ending the 1st of May. Now, where are we on Bitcoin? Well, XBTF, which is the Van Eck Bitcoin strategy, this tracks Bitcoin, but again, it is its own ETF. And we can see that it is moving down still, although it was up for the day 1.34%. You can see where things bottomed there on Wednesday morning and afternoon, sliding sideways on Thursday, coming up some on Friday. I'm hoping that Bitcoin will again track down further for us. Why? Because I want the chart to start moving in a discernible direction like the S&P does. I say this, been saying this every day a lot lately, hoping it will sink in. That's what we want Bitcoin to start looking like. And until it does, we're sort of throwing darts at a board, hoping if you're trying to practice trade any of this that you're going to guess right. Well, that's not the way to practice trade. That's the way to gamble and lose money. But again, hoping, perhaps against hope, that Bitcoin will at some point become trackable as it has been in the past. That is where we are, folks, as we end the week. We so appreciate you being with us. We particularly Give our thanks to the Patreon supporters that underwrite the work we do here at the channel. Excuse me. If you're interested in helping us, follow the link in the show notes to the Patreon page. We always love to hear from you. CW@chartingwealth.com. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.